G'day everyone, I'm Jazza and welcome to my little Zen nook. Now, I used to collect drawing books from a very young age. I've bought less these days, to be honest, but when I was developing as an artist, they were a huge deal to me. And then also sort of in that transitional phase between more intermediate artist and then eventually being able to do it professionally, there were more high-end books that really helped me anchor myself and guide myself and also discover what I was most passionate about. And I wanted to make a video sharing my journey through a few hand-picked art books that made the biggest impact on me and shaped my creative career. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to handpick maybe for 5 or 6 that I want to go through extensively in this video. In the process, I'll tuck those away so they're a surprise, but I think I'll have to highlight some honorable mentions in the process. The Magic the Gathering Art of books are just incredible. And this one is like one of the Egyptian themed ones. I'd love to check out the other ones that they have because there is so much art just on this one theme of the Magic the Gathering art series of cards and stuff. It's amazing. So I actually should check out what else they have. Again, there are these like coffee table books. I love the art of books, even if they're things that I don't particularly like immerse myself in their product, like Overwatch. I don't even play Overwatch, and Magic the Gathering I played years and years ago, but the art of I can so appreciate. Oh, look at this. This deserves a special mention for sure. Mark Crilly, Mastering Manga. I'm not much of a manga artist myself, but if you're into manga, Crilly is the man to learn it from. Now, the problem is, I said I'd pick 5 or 6. I just couldn't help myself. I'm gonna have to narrow it down. I might get rid of this. This is the Witchblade Compendium. The reason I was tempted to include this is because it was actually reading the Witchblade comics and the female illustrations. This is back when I had no confidence drawing girls, and I was like, this is so annoying. Why are they all so like good at drawing like the sexy female superhero cliche thing? It basically gave teenage boy me motivation to gain some confidence and learn a little more. It's a weird thing to say, but it's actually the reason that Witchblade was on the old Draw with Jazza mural. I'm counting this as 1, even though it's 3 books, because they all fit together in my development story. So 1, and I'm counting these 5 books as 1 as well, because there's reasons. 3, 4, 5. See, technically it's, well, not technically, it's like 10 books, but emotionally it's 5. That makes this a top 5 video. The first one is Drawing Cutting Edge Comics by Christopher Hart. Now, the great thing about this book is it actually features a whole bunch of additional artists. You have here contributing artists. It's so condensed but clear and straightforward. I actually feel like in large part it influenced how I ended up instructing in my videos because it felt so clear and understandable. Like, for example, look at this sketch of the skull. You see so many drawing books with a skull in it because you need to know how to draw a skull. That's not an anatomically correct skull. It's a really stylistic, quirky skull. And I just think that's cool because it helps my brain personally understand the shapes and the styles that can make something more understandable but also stand out and really cool. Same goes with anatomy. While in some places, some people have been known to criticize the anatomical correctness to the details of Christopher Hart's anatomy, at the same time, I, as a learning artist, could grasp an understanding of human anatomy so much quicker because it was so simplified and digestible, which I think is fantastic, because later down the line, if you want to learn all of those details and all of the nuances of how the muscles and sinew connect, go for it. But if you want the crash course and you want to remember it and enjoy the process of learning, this is a perfect example for me as to the best way to do that. This whole chapter on discovering your personal style features completely different comic book artists interpreting the same comic book character in their own style. They had the same brief and they each came up with the same character in their own way. And I just think that is just a perfect example of how you can make art your own. And that is one of the major lessons I took from this book. You can find your voice and make it cool. But you can also be inspired by other people's voices and use that to help build your own. I also loved that, as you can see, there's a lot of comic book, there's a lot of sort of higher detailed shading stuff, and then it goes into cartoons and really simplistic, quirky, cutesy stuff, perspective and intensity and foreshortening. It really was a huge coverall book for all of these things. I don't even know if these books are available, by the way. If they are, I will link to them in the description with some sort of Amazon link or whatever, so feel free to go check them out. But overall, this was one of the biggest educational and inspirational resources I had that I constantly came back to. There were some drawing books that I read a couple of times, but this was one of the ones that became my Bible through a period of my development, which was really cool. Next, the animators among you already know what I'm going to be talking about. Richard Williams' The Animators Survival Kit. Now, if you've heard of this book, or you have this book, there's really not much I can say, because it has a presence. Every animator can like sense when the survival kit's in the room. My animator sense is tingling. But seriously, if you are an animator, if you are interested in animation, whatever level you're at, this is the Bible for animation. It's so cool. Like, not only is it incredibly well written, oh hey, look, it's got a little inscription. Oh, that's right. I earned this book from my high school. I think I did some freelance work for my high school principal in exchange for 2 books. I got to choose 2 books, and this was one of the books. There's a little slice of time there. Didn't pay me. I rarely recommend taking jobs without pay, but this book is worth its weight in gold. The Animators Survival Kit is the comprehensive guide to animation. Now, there are elements of this book that don't hold up as well today. One of the major ones is there's like an entire chapter on focus and concentration, not having music playing in the room when you're animating, not having distractions. Oh, come on. As if you could even do that today. Like 80% of the animation work is in-betweens and tweaking or environments or whatever, where really the best thing to do is zone out and do the work. That's the only point I mainly disagree on with this book. But aside from going through the initial history of animation and some of the earlier examples and some interesting concepts as to what animation is and why it's useful, and starting off with the real basics, the meat of it is so cool when you get to the character work and you can see really clearly the extremes of the keyframes, the breakdowns. Everything is laid out in such minute detail. It goes into walking styles, where the hips move, how to create a different character by animating them walking like that character. It goes into everything. The head position in the walk cycle. Such a valuable book, and really something that I'm sure many of you watching this were inspired by in your development. And if you are interested in animation, it's well worth picking up and diving into. Number 3, the art of the World of Warcraft. Now, I've mentioned that I loved the art of books, of some games and board games. This was one of the ones which, like the other 2 that I've gone through so far, I constantly came back to. There was just something about the concept art, these sketches for the character designs in the World of Warcraft game that just blew my mind and grabbed me. There was this visceral tangibility to the characters, to the anatomy, the character designs. They showed some of the 3D renders and the outcomes, but the actual sketches, the process and the development of this really vivid aesthetic was just so captivating to me. I think the other thing I loved about it too is, aside from going through like stylistically different races and humanoid characters, it went through creatures and it went through environments, which isn't my strong point, but it sort of treats environments like characters. You almost see that it's got like the breakdown of elements of a single environment. So here, for example, rather than just showing constant pictures of finished environments or sketches, you can also see that there are breakdowns of their thought process on the fauna and the flora. They're treated like characters that need to fit within one cohesive environment. And I found that really interesting and helpful as well. Oh, and also structures and weapons. So you got characters and environments, and then you got swords, guns, hammers, buildings. I just loved this stuff, because if I was drawing a character and I just wasn't getting their weapon right, I'd come back and I'd just get inspired by the way they brainstormed what ended up being incredible aesthetics and weapons and designs. I'm sure there are other art of books that might grab me in a similar way, but again, this is one of those ones that I got when I was about 14. The game had just come out and it was starting to become really wildly popular, and I did play it a little bit, but not enough to like be a wower. Is that what they called? Wowers?
Wow.
Wow. What are players of WoW called? Anyway, I played a little bit, but this I played a lot more. Then we're up to 4, and these are the J. Scott Campbell Rough Stuff books. I'm sure you can see why I am counting these as one book, because we have volume 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's just assume that they're pretty much one book, and they all do the same thing. They are basically his sketchbook tour, just sort of bound and nicely presented, and just looking through his sketches and his sketchbook is just so cool. It's like a little glimpse into an artist's brain, and it's especially inspiring when you can see through their sketches that their brain works so much more efficiently and with so much more precision than your own, but not in a way that feels discouraging, in a way that feels like I can learn from this. I can actually dissect how he's drawing that face, how he's constructed that body. Like, why do we have here several sketches of Venom in seemingly the same pose? I mean, that's a question you could ask and benefit from the answer of, but the real benefit is seeing the breakdown from such a rough idea to the final drawing, and the fact that they're separate drawings is really interesting to me. And finally, last but not least, number 5 is a set of 3 books which I'm including because they're a part of the same narrative. The first is Masters of Anatomy, which was a kickstarted book. For this video being advertiser friendly, I actually can't show you the girl side of the book. They haven't drawn the willies. How sexist is that? Why are we not allowed to show boobs, but male nipples are fine? They're technically the same thing. And where are the willies? I demand willy justice. This is getting very weird very quickly. Now, this actually is a very interesting book, and the reason I like it so much is because it does one thing really well and really effectively, and that is showing a turnaround of a male and female on 3 angles. Again, we have photos, and then from there we have illustrations from different artists with, as you can see, entirely different styles. That is the whole book, from cartoons to the big rocky fellas to the comic book fellas to really simple, goofy looking things. The reason this is so interesting is because when there is nothing else to distract you, whether it be clothing or character design or an environment or a pose, when it's literally one thing, and that is one artist's stylistic interpretation of the human form, then you're really presented with the opportunity to, oh, there's a willy. There's a willy. Bit of willy justice. We can't show the willy. There's no willy justice. It's all going to be blurred out. So this is a fairly recent book, and the reason I'm including this is because, first of all, it's a really interesting and very educational and helpful and awesome premise, but also the nature of it being kickstarted led to other books like the 21 Draw series, the original one I have on the shelf there, but I'm including this one in this set because it's actually one I was invited to contribute to. So there are a handful of different contributors to each chapter. I contributed the perspective part of like the breakdown of the basics of perspective. So the reason I'm putting these 3 books together is, first of all, the 2 that I've shown being kickstarted really was an interesting perspective for me in my development to see that you can just make something. You don't need to be traditionally published, or you don't need to follow an exact format. You can create something unique or new that hasn't been done before with other people or on your own platform, it doesn't matter. But then also contributing to the second of these crowdfunded books really cultivated that spark in me where I realized I want to make my own how to draw book. So the last one on my list, and the reason I've grouped those 3 together, is because they were a big part of resulting in this, which is my book, Draw with Jazza Creating Characters. I bet you didn't know this whole video was leading to a plug. I think the book is still being published. I'm not actually entirely sure, so I don't even know if I would benefit from plugging it or anything, but I really absolutely have to include this because my entire development as an artist was so inspired by so many of the books that I've shared with you today, and the fact that it all came full circle in my ability to create my own and make it the way that I wanted to make it, in the style and with the things that inspired me, having a bit of the rough stuff, having a bit of the neater stuff. At the end of the day, every how to draw book or drawing book or inspiration book holds a different place in people's hearts for different reasons, maybe for a different level of inspiration or even a part of nostalgia, or for the practical help that it offered. And I tried as hard as I could to offer as much practical help regarding character design and character development as I could. I loved incorporating that rough stuff that I was always so inspired by, and that sketchy aesthetic, mixing in my character. That really was a fun part of making it feel like my own, and simplifying the process into the 4 steps of the character design process. But for me, the biggest part of this whole thing was actually having something in my hand as a result at the end that has just been so monumental and made me feel like so special. Every time I've met you guys at meet and greets, there have inevitably been a handful of people who come up to me with my book that I get to sign for them, which is just so touching and so amazing, and is so inspirational to me, and humbling to think that other people, to some degree, have been able to get some level of inspiration or help or practical drive or advice or something from what I was able to offer, which is, as I've shown, entirely the result of the inspiration and advice and practical help that I was offered in my development. So there you have it. These are the 5 books / groups of books that had a huge impact on my development, and I really hope you found it interesting and the thoughts I've shared. Again, if any of these seem interesting or helpful to you, I'm going to link to them all in the description so you can check them out, and hopefully they might offer you, if you can still get them, a level of inspiration or practical help that I was benefited by. And while we're all sharing, why don't you let me know in the comments some books that you think, based on the things that I've shared that I love, that I might be interested in seeing, and also share your favorite books, whether they be how to draw books or art of books or whatever. What books have influenced your creativity and driven you to do better as an artist and try new things and step up your game, or just find more joy in your creativity? Let me know in the comments down below. I can't wait to read them, and I'm looking forward to seeing the discussion and you share them with each other. But that's it for this video. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I'd like to encourage you to, of course, hit subscribe if you want to join me in the future of the creative journey on this channel. We have loads of fun here with fun. We have loads of fun with fun. We do have fun with fun, but we also have fun with art and creativity. I have more videos over there you might enjoy. Make sure to hit that like button and ring the bell if you want to enjoy more in future. Otherwise, that's it for now, and until next time, I'll see you later.